Welcome to the DSO Hygienist podcast, where we deep dive into the world of DSO hygiene. I'm your host, Christine Deal. I'm a practicing clinical hygienist with over 30 years of experience. 7 years ago, my private practice was bought by a DSO. I am an advocate for hygienists working in the DSO space. Your journey to happiness and success begins here. Kim McCrady has more than 35 years of experience in the dental industry, beginning her career as a clinical assistant and later becoming a registered dental hygienist. She has deep experience working across all operating roles in the dental office. Kim is a co-founder of Signature Dental Partners and has held several leadership operational roles within Signature Dental Partners. Currently, she is focusing her efforts on providing extensive support for the hygienists in her organization. Mrs. McCrady graduated with an AS from Salt Lake Community College and a BA in psychology from Ottawa University. She is the proud mother of 2 wonderful daughters, mother-in-law to 2 handsome gentlemen, supported by an amazing husband, Carey, and is head over heels about her latest role as grandma. Welcome, Kim.
Well, thanks for having me, Christine. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for being on today. I just think you have a wealth of information we all want to know about you. So let's get started with questions.
Awesome.
What inspired you to own your own DSO as a hygienist?
You know, I didn't set out, that wasn't the plan. I didn't wake up one day and say, wow, I think I'm going to start a DSO. It started years ago when I'd been in dentistry pretty much my entire life, and the more you're in the industry, the more you learn about just the entire practice and how it operates. So I was very interested in that, and lucky to have folks around me who exposed me to a lot of education, not just for hygiene, but for the entire practice and how it functions in the business side. So I don't really set out trying to start a DSO, but I was approached by, we had 4 practices. My 3 business partners and I had 4 practices in Arizona. And I was basically managing all the HR and the marketing, the payroll, the accounts payable for all the practices, setting up the standard operating procedures for the practices. And my marketing vendor ran into someone at Midwinter in Chicago, and they were doing something similar in the Midwest, and they wanted to start a DSO in the Southwest, and we're looking for a partner. And so that's how it all started, was really through a good relationship with a great vendor partner who liked what we were doing and how we were doing it, and made an introduction, and it all started from there. But to be honest, in the beginning, when we had our 4 practices and I was handling all of the administrative and business side of the house tasks and duties for the doctors, we didn't realize it, but we had started our own little mini DSO here. And so I didn't set out with the intention of doing this, but it just kind of evolved over time.
Yeah, and there's so many different sizes of DSOs. I think people don't really realize that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't even understand what a DSO is. I think that there's still a mentality in the industry that there's private or there's corporate, and there's this lack of understanding of this emerging space of DSO, which is a support organization or a service organization. I think they have various names, but I think people don't fully understand what a DSO is and how it differs from private and how it differs from corporate, and is trying to bring the best of both of those worlds together into a third opportunity for employment.
Yeah. Can you describe the journey from being a practicing hygienist to becoming a DSO owner?
Sure. So I was a dental hygienist for Dr. Chet Jenkins. He is my original partner. We were working together in 2004 as I was a clinical hygienist 1 day a week in one of his practices. And then a friend of mine who is a dentist started her own practice, and she needed an employee. She was actually using her mother. Her mom was her single employee as she was starting her practice. She called me one afternoon and said, I either need an employee or I need a mom, but it can't be the same person. And so I said, well, shoot, I'll come up and help you. And so I was her sole employee for quite a long time. I was doing front, all the administrative tasks. I was her dental assistant. When we had hygiene patients, I would see a hygiene patient. But we worked on that together, and I did that for about 5 years with her. The trouble was, by the time we got to the end of our little journey together, we were working 12-hour days. The drive to her location was about an hour either side of that drive for me. So I was 14 hours a day gone from my family, and I had little kids at the time. And so I was missing the stuff. You miss the dance recitals and the band concerts. And so it was challenging. But fortunately for me, I'd stayed in touch with Dr. Jenkins, and he had a practice near my home. Started working with him. But that 5 years away, where I really had to be the only employee in this practice and do all of the tasks, you learn how to be incredibly efficient when you're it, and you're having to cover all the bases. And so it was a good experience for me to learn how to do all of that by myself, essentially. I mean, the doctor did the dentistry and things, but that's how it happened. And so when I came back to work with Dr. Jenkins in 2009, he recognized that I had just a little bit more understanding on a bigger picture of what the practices needs and how they operate and how to create a great deal of efficiency. So he asked me to manage one practice, and then it turned into two, and then it turned into three, and eventually four. And at one point I realized that, doctors, dentists buy a practice. They work their practice for 30, 40 years. They sell their practice, and that's their retirement plan. And I quickly came to the realization that when those types of transactions happen, typically the staff are, especially a long-time tenured staff, Dr. Youngblood can't afford to keep them or doesn't value them. And so I quickly realized what I was doing, which was great for the doctors, helping them create this asset to sell, but where was I going to be? So I went to them and I said, I would like to start winding down from, managing these 4 practices, or 3 at the time, and start my own consulting business. And I was promptly told no, which was odd because we had such a collaborative relationship. I never in a million years thought they'd say no. And Dr. Jenkins said, let's get back to each other in a week. So we had a meeting a week later, and they said, if you really want to pursue a consulting firm so that you have a business to build up and sell for your retirement, we'll support you, but we'd like to give you another option. And that's when they invited me to become their business partner. And from that moment, we created a company together called Signature Dental, and we started acquiring practices together as the 4 of us as Signature Dental.
Wow. I've kind of been in that situation where, our doctor I was with for many years retired, and you're right, there's really nothing for you after that happens. So I get that.
Yeah, it's a struggle. And a lot of small practices, they don't have retirement plans, and
right.
There's not a lot of retirement planning for us as the team. Mm-hmm. It's a retirement plan for the dentist, but what about us? So
yeah, that's such a good point. Now, how does your background as a dental hygienist influence your approach to managing your DSO?
Well, I think it gives me a really unique perspective because I always start with the patient first. It's always everything I think about and recommend is rooted in patient care. And I also understand that you cannot just manage any business, but particularly a people business, a dental business, from a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like when you jump on the scale. You're not managing your weight because you're standing on the scale and reading a number. You're managing your weight with what you're doing between the times you step on the scale. Like you're either eating Twinkies or salads. That's what makes the change. And so having that clinical background and being able to be credible with the offices and go in and evaluate their systems, their process, their philosophies, and help them all align on what is best for the patient. And then how are we going to execute that? Our recipe was always focus on your team. Make sure you have the right team. They're in the right seat on the bus. They're well cared for. If that happens first, they're going to naturally take care of your patients. And then the financials just follow. That's an output of these 2 inputs.
So what are the key factors to consider when running a successful DSO?
Oh, the key factors. Team. Team. Take care of your team. Have open communication with your team. Just like any business, in dentistry, any practice, whether it's private, corporate, a DSO space, nobody's perfect. They're never going to be perfect. And having those open lines of communication with everyone across the entire organization is critical to the success. You don't know what's broken if you don't know what's broken. Mm-hmm. So people have to be able to have a culture and environment where they feel comfortable bringing something up and then in earnest finding a solution for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's so key. Taking care of your team will take care of your patients.
Of course they will. If they're happy, why wouldn't they?
Right. I love that. What strategies do you use to ensure high quality patient care when it's across multiple locations?
Yeah, that was a big one, as we grew and you get a little further away from being able to be in every single practice to monitor. The things that we really focus on now, Dr. Jenkins and I are in, he's the chief dental officer. I'm the chief of strategy, but I like to call myself the chief of hygiene happiness. It's not, I like that title a little bit better.
I love that title.
I know, I do too. But as we've grown and we've been able to grow other departments and hand them off to other people, we've become really focused on the clinical part of practice and being able to deliver the highest standard of care. So on the doctor side, we have a clinical advisory board that's comprised of working dentists who bring differing opinions, which is great. That's what you want on a council. You don't want everybody to think the same. And then on the hygiene side, we have a hygiene council. And they work hand in glove with the clinical advisory board. We meet quarterly. We meet on site together as the cabinet council once a year to discuss preferred vendors, preferred products, new things that are coming out. So my role is to stay up on what's current. But the biggest part of my role is listening to the hygienists who are actually out practicing and telling me what's new, what do they want to try, what doesn't work, what does work. And then bleeding that out to the rest of the organization in such a way that they know it's there as support. It's not a mandate. So to simplify my job with really the council doing the work because they're amazing. They're practicing hygienists. Our job is to fill the toolbox of our hygienists so that they have all of these things at their disposal that they could use when they're seeing a patient. And then, of course, we do chart audits and just want to make sure that we're following the standards of care in all things.
Yeah. So how do you motivate your team of dental professionals within the DSO?
Luckily for hygiene, we're already very self-motivated people. We're very self-motivated, but I think one of my favorite things to do are contests. I love contests that are rooted in patient care, that I ask the hygienist, what would you want as a prize? And sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's saddle chairs. Sometimes it's instruments. We did a really fun contest the end of last year called Blitz for Kids. And there were different elements of the contest, but the long and short of it is they won a brand new I Dream of Hygiene kit, just full of fabulous instruments, and they really liked that. And I loved it that too. Who doesn't love a new instrument? So listening to them about what they need and want, and then trying to inspire and motivate them to continue to provide great care, but giving them what they need, making sure that they're heard, I think is in the open lines of communication is a little bit new, I think, for some hygienists.
I think you're right about that. I think more people need to listen.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to other hygienists considering starting their own DSO or getting involved in their own DSO?
I would say the advice I would give you is think like a business owner. Start now thinking how, if you owned the business, how would you make decisions? Ask to be part of the financial reviews and the strategic planning for your location. ask to come and shadow someone like myself or a director of dental hygiene or a hygiene council member. Be curious all the time. Stay in a curiosity mode. If you don't understand something, ask. Ask why. Really seek to understand and know. And then I think the most important thing, if you are either thinking about starting your own or you're thinking about, well, if you're starting your own, I would encourage everyone to look for the right partners. If you don't have the right partners that are aligned with, number one, the culture and the mission, the vision, the values of the company, everything will be a mess. So find the right partners who are aligned with the end game. If you're already in a DSO and you're looking to move through the ranks of the DSO, and ranks, not that there's, like, we're a very flat organization at Signature Dental Partners. We all do whatever we need to do. But if you're looking to move out of an operatory to a different position, start asking. Start asking your regional directors. Start asking people like myself what options are out there, and then start shadowing and then researching.
Yeah, I love the shadowing. I never really thought about that, but that is some great advice, because then you could see what they're doing on the day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And see if that's even something you want to do.
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to, this week I'm actually onboarding a new director of dental hygiene. I'm very excited about it. She's been here for a couple of days with me, and her comment this morning when we kind of recapped yesterday, she said, I didn't really realize all that was going to go into this. She's very excited about it, and now her creative wheels are really spinning, but you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So be teachable, be curious, and most of all, just start thinking now like a business owner and understanding why things happen and why things don't.
Yeah. So what are your future goals for your DSO, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Oh, my future goal is the same as my goal, I think, when I started this whole thing is, our business model is we partner with private practices, and we want to do the non-clinical aspects of the job for the practice. And as we've come through this journey, where you kind of find my thoughts today is I want a practice that's supported by Signature Dental Partners to be a destination employment opportunity for a dental hygienist. I want them to know that when they come to a practice that we support, they have a community of hygienists to support them in every way. You're never on an island by yourself. The doctor isn't the end of the road for decision making. There's always someone in your corner to help maybe approach awkward conversations or implement something new. And I also want them to have a place where they can actually come to work. And we are providers, so we need to be treated and compensated like providers. We need trust, we need respect, we need autonomy in our scheduling, we need flexibility. And as far as compensation goes, we need to be compensated like doctors are compensated. And so I want all of our hygienists to know that the support is there. There's a pathway to uncapped earning potential. There's pathways to growth in other areas of dentistry. I would invite them again to come sit with me, shadow, call me, ask me anything. I'm probably a little bit more of an open book to a fault, but I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. But that's my goal. I want every Signature supported office to be a destination for a hygienist to want to come to work, not to end their career. I mean, if they'd like to, that's okay. If you want to stay in clinical hygiene, that's great. Or maybe think of it as coming to start your new career. You're going to start as a clinical hygienist, and then your professional growth starts from there.
I might have to move to Arizona.
Well, we are in 9 Western states, so you have options. We're not just in Arizona, although we're based here.
So thank you so much, Kim, for coming on today. This has been so great. What a wealth of knowledge you have. Anyone has any questions or would like to get a hold of you to discuss more about this, how could they get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, first of all, Christine, I can't thank you enough for giving me a platform to share my story. I tend to be a little timid about sharing it, but I think that having hygienists in DSOs and in leadership positions is the future of the industry. anybody wants to get a hold of me, my name is Kim McCrady, as you mentioned earlier. My cell phone number is 480-292-3598. Call me and text me anytime. And my email address is kmckrady@signaturedentalpartners.com.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thank you. I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you for listening to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Please follow or subscribe to be alerted of new episodes.